Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today we'll be reviewing the S.H.Figuarts Sabo, Revolutionary Army Chief of Staff. Now this is Sabo pretty much right now in the anime and the manga as of my time reading. I am almost up to date on the manga, and this is the sort of design of Sabo from the most recent chapters and the anime. And the S.H.Figuarts One Piece line has been doing this really weird thing where they're releasing figures of their current designs while also releasing figures of pre-time skip and like anything in between. There's no real consistency to like who's getting what when, and so it's like when Wano was big, they were releasing a bunch of Wano figures, which is when they announced the redo of the S.H.Figuarts line, which, you know, made sense. Yeah, get their most recent character designs out. Then they started doing the pre-time skip ones. Then they were like, oh, we're gonna do Egghead Luffy. Then they're like, oh yeah, that's cool. Then they go do Shanks, and Shanks can work with pre or post time skip. That's cool. Then they announce Ace, and you're like, oh, Ace is cool. It'd be nice if they do a Sabo. Then they do Sabo, and it's the current Sabo, even though I think it would have worked better if it was Dressrosa Sabo, just because that is a slightly more iconic look, and I think it would have just worked and fit the aesthetic just a little bit better. And we will be getting into that shortly. Anyway, this is Sabo as he appears in the most recent arcs. It is a standard release figure, but it does have a pretty good set of accessories and versatility with those accessories. And it is a pretty cool set, honestly. Sabo's not my favorite character by a long shot, but he is still pretty cool. I don't really like his current look that much, and I think that comes down to color scheme. I do much prefer the simple colors and designs of the Dressrosa outfit. I don't really like the white blouse and the tan jacket, but, you know, some people do. I'm just not a huge fan. But taken out of the box, here's what Sabo comes with. So he's got 5 faces, one of them being a Luffy DLC piece. He's got an alternate head/hat piece. He's got his pipe, as well as a bunch of different hands. And the goggles are also separate, so you can display them separate to the hat, which is a nice touch. But it is the sort of standard-ish face loadout that you expect from the One Piece line of like standard, smiling, shouting. And it's fine as is. I do like the Luffy DLC thing. It does add a lot more expression to the character, especially since they work with pre and post time skip Luffy. That is really, really cool brand cohesion. But taken out of the box and put on a display here is Sabo, and he looks pretty good, all things considered. Again, I said I don't really like the color scheme that they chose for this, but I can't deny that he is accurate to where he is currently in the anime. And the figure does look pretty good. It does fit, for the most part, with the rest of the One Piece figure scheme that they've been doing. I'd say it's most closely linked to the Kid and Law, where they've got the big plastic capes, but the Sabo's one is lighter than Kid's, so he can stand without a extra stand holding him up, and it is more posable than Law's, so it's sort of like in between the two of them, and it is removable, which is also very, very good to see. I do wish that they went with either one solid piece of like soft plastic or something like that, or a wired cloak, just because the cuts in it are kind of awkward, because the sides can hinge out and move around, but the back piece can't. So if you do actiony poses, it's just going to be awkward like the Law. But the cool thing is that you can remove it, so you can just ignore all of that if you want to. Here he is next to the Luffy, so you can see he stands a little bit taller. This is the Wano Luffy, and I think that it'd probably be about the same with the pre-time skip. I just didn't take him out for this review, and it's probably accurate to his actual scale. But we'll move right into posability. So he's got a ball joint at the head and neck. It's pretty good movement overall. It is quite loose. Once you pop the head on and off a few times, it becomes incredibly loose, so you might need to strengthen that joint at some point. But for now, it's fine, but I can see myself having to fix it soon. His little like collar blouse part can move around. His arms can rotate all the way around and hinge out. There's no butterfly. They can swivel at the upper arm. bend at the elbow and ball hinge at the wrist. There's a ball joint in the upper chest, which is nice and allows for some good arcing back and forward. The lower part of the chest is actually a floating piece, which is weird, and the waist can rotate. He can do the splits that far, kick forward and back that far, swivel at the upper thigh, bend at the knee. The boot can swivel. There's a hinge at the ankle and bend at the toe. And that's it. It is pretty good posability. I'd say the only real downside is the butterfly, and as I mentioned before, the weird posable elements of the cloak and the non-posable elements of the cloak just being awkward. And Sabo, like I said, comes with 4 faces for himself, so he's got the neutral face out of the box, which looks good. He's got a little smirking face. He's got a big smiling face with his eyes closed, and he's got an angry shouting face. These faces are of course compatible with his hat as well, and it does change the aesthetic quite a bit, and I do like how they turned out. And of course we get a face for Luffy. This is his crying face when he met up with Sabo for the first time after the time skip, which is also why I think this should have been the Dressrosa Sabo. It would have worked just a little bit better, but still is a very, very nice face to have, and I do like the extra expression that Luffy gets from all of these figures. But with those accessories, you can get Sabo into some pretty decent poses. He's got the hands that you need, like the Dragon Claw attack. He can hold his pipe, he can hold the rim of his hat, and it all looks very, very nice. The weight distribution on the figure is quite good, even though the cloak is about the weight of the figure itself. It's just balanced a bit better than like Kid and Law, so you can pose him quite a bit better without it toppling constantly. It does still topple, but just it's easier to balance it out. But I do think he comes with a pretty good allotment of accessories, as well as like versatility for those accessories, like all the faces fitting with the hat, being able to take off the goggles if you want to and hang it around his neck, putting the pipe in his hand, or you can also store it on the jacket, which is cool. You get a lot of really, really nice options. And it is a solid figure. I was also impressed that I was able to get Luffy to hug Sabo and for Sabo to hold him without either of them falling without any base. So that's kind of cool. Like, they've worked on the weight distribution for sure on these figures and solidity of the joints. The only thing is that that neck piece just really, really sucks on Sabo, so his head really, really is loose and hard to manage. But otherwise, the figure is pretty good. I do think that the head and the lack of butterfly is the worst part of it. The cape is so-so, but it is fully removable, and the design, not really liking it in comparison to the Dressrosa thing. That's just a fully personal thing. But the actual limitations of the posability and QC is the actual problem here. It's still a fine figure, but it does have a few problems and learning curves to it. So, you know, buy it at your own risk. I have heard that the ace is very, very good, so I think having the ace followed by this is a bit awkward, but the ace is premium Bandai, and it was part of like the whole Figure Coliseum thing last year, so they sort of went all out on it, whereas this is a very standard release figure. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I will see you all next time.